Thank you very much for visiting my channel. If not difficult, like and subscribe to my channel to always be aware of events. Thank. Russian missiles have struck a market in eastern Ukraine, killing at least 7 people as Putin keeps up his brutal bombardment of civilians. 8 people were also wounded in an attack on the city of Avdiivka, in Donetsk Oblast, which is close to the Russian front line. Russians struck the central market, where many people were at that time, Donetsk Regional Governor Pavlo Kyrylenko said the focus will be on weapons to protect against Russian rocket attacks. We will address how to ramp up support for Ukraine and the top priority will be more air defense, Stoltenberg said today, adding there was no military logic to the attack and it shows Russia's unbridled desire to kill as many people as possible. The attack comes off the back of huge salvos of missiles fired at Putin is exacting revenge on Ukraine after his armies suffered a series of humiliating defeats, including an explosion which crippled the Crimea bridge at the weekend, with 5 more towns recaptured, knocking out power and water supplies, killing at least 19 people, and wounding scores. Air defense systems are the top priority for Ukraine's allies, the head of NATO has said today. Jens Stoltenberg, speaking at a summit to discuss military aid to Kyiv. Ukraine on Monday and Tuesday that struck virtually every major Ukrainian city. It comes after Putin unleashed devastating salvos of missiles earlier this week that killed 19 people, wounded scores, and took out power and water networks. Commanders said a cluster of villages Novokamianka, Trovonovka, Novovassilivka, Novorihorovka and Chervon in the Kherson region, had fallen into their hands. It comes as Ukraine consolidates its new front line after breaking through Russian defenses in the region last week, advancing 12 miles in just a few hours. More than 100 missiles and dozens of drones attacked virtually every major city in Ukraine over 48 hours between Monday and Tuesday, causing widespread death and destruction to civilians. At least 19 people died and scores more were hurt in the bombings which took out power and water supplies in major cities such as Lviv. Kyiv has accused Russia of deliberately targeting civilians in terrorist attacks, while Putin insists he is hitting military infrastructure. The strikes were unleashed in response to an explosion which crippled the Kerch Bridge from occupied Crimea to Russia at the weekend, which Putin has blamed on the Ukrainian Secret Service. FSB agents on Wednesday said they had arrested 8 people, 5 Russians and 3 people from Ukraine and Armenia, over the attack. The FSB accused the ring of smuggling 25 tons of explosives disguised as plastic sheeting used for construction around the Black Sea and into Russia. They said 22 pallets carrying the explosives went from Odessa, in southern Ukraine, via Rus in Bulgaria to Yerevan in Armenia, and then across Georgia and into Russia. The last stop on their 2-month journey was Armavir, in southern Russia, before they were shipped to a non-existent company in Simferopol, Crimea, the FSB says.